Okay, so I'm here to talk about security and quality. Both are my passion. And we need to think about this new era. We are facing a lot of challenges now in coding with AI also. So we need to start thinking about the security of our products. Um, I'm Sara Martinez. I'm from Spain, as you can see from my accent. I started to test products, software products, hardware products, mobile products about 10 years ago. But 6 years ago, I had the opportunity to start testing cybersecurity products. At that point, I realized that there are a lot of similarities between testing and security. Even with a lot of metrics and parameters, we had a lot of relations. So I started to research about how to join these both worlds and how can we use quality to make products safe. And I've went with these researches to a lot of conferences, and you can contact me on social media, by email, wherever you want if you have any doubt, because I know that we are running out of time. So if you have any questions about this speech or wherever, you can contact me, and I will be glad to ask and discuss about this topic. What are the main goals of this speech? We are going to talk about the secure software development lifecycle. Why? Because I think that we are part of a cycle, of a development cycle, and probably doing some security checkpoints during our testing cycle, we are going to gain security in our products. We are going to talk about some pressure, about some recent attacks, risks, and vulnerabilities, and how can we, using automation, quality culture, security culture, we are going to find these new security bugs, and we are going to face new challenges and also solve them. Basically, we are going to protect our products from the very beginning, and at the end, giving them with quality and security. Let's start with a little bit of context. We are going to talk about code, about quality, about security, risk, and also vulnerabilities. Most of us are quite familiar with this software development cycle, life cycle, and we also have our own software testing development life cycle. So we knew, or we tried to work using this agile or this cycle instead of being in a waterfall model. So we know that each part of the software development it's related with a testing topic, the requirements analysis. We need to do that. We need to plan what we are going to test.
Sarah,
We need,
pausing you for just 1 minute. Sorry. I'm not
okay,
sure if you wanted to switch slide.
I switched the slide. You are
So
not,
I can still see the main slide, your cover slide. So let me just
oh,
see.
you are, okay, I
Oh,
can,
perfect. Yes. Now we can see the software development lifecycle that you are talking about.
I
Just
don't, I didn't.
it will be easier for people to follow with the slides
Okay.
along with you.
I didn't touch anything, so I don't know what
Okay.
happened.
In any case, sorry, go
Okay,
ahead.
if there's any problem with the slides, tell me about that and we'll review it. Okay, so as I said, we are quite familiar with this cycle, this that on each part of our testing cycle, we are related to a phase of the development cycle. So we need to develop our test cases, we need to execute the test cases on different environments, we need to find this testing closure, this relation. But what happens here if we add security? Uh, you can see the slides? Let
Yes.
me know. Yes, the security slide. Okay. um, Basically, I love this definition of cybersecurity because literally, cybersecurity is art. It's art of protecting, of making the world safe, protecting networks, protecting assets, protecting person of this unauthorized access or this criminal use. And it's the art of ensuring the confidentiality, integrity, and availability of information that it's known by the CIA triad in cybersecurity. And it's important to say that this criminal access or this part of the
Sorry
cybersecurity.
again, Sarah. Let me try to share the screen. I will do the screen sharing and then you will speak, and let's see if that will be, because we were still stuck without seeing your slide. Let's see if now.
Okay, can I stop sharing and
Yeah,
start
yeah, yeah.
again?
I took the sharing. I will follow. I will present and you can talk so people can see.
Okay.
Just comment, please, if you can now see the security slide.
Mm,
This is for the audience, just to make sure. Yes. Okay, go
yes,
ahead.
I can see it. I tell you that I'm going ahead. Okay.
Oh,
So basically, cyber, as I said, it's art, and it's important to say that um, cybersecurity or hacking, it's not a crime. So hackers are people that are beyond the technology, that want to analyze, want to share, want to learn. So I think most of us here are, we can consider us as hackers, not are cyber criminals or cyber attackers. So just I want to say that thing that I think it's important on the cybersecurity community. And we can go ahead. When we add cyber, no, the the other one, this one. What happens is if we add security into the testing cycle, as is if this is a match between the first diagram we saw with the testing cycle integrated in the software development cycle. And here what we have is that on each part of the testing cycle, we can do some security checks. For example, if we have a new requirement and it's related to security, for example, an authentication or authorization access, maybe or for sure it's going to be related with security. And maybe we need to see if we need to test something or we need to review the functionality to be safe and to have also quality. Then when we are going to plan or testing or test plan, maybe we need to see that if we need to modify the threat modeling, which part of the team is going to be responsible also of the of each security point. And when we are, for example, developing our test cases and developers are doing the functionality, maybe it's useful to have code analysis, static code analysis integrated with the development phase and having some vulnerability scanning dependencies. And once we have an environment and we can add a dynamic application security testing, maybe at that point, uh, if we have these security checkpoints, even if we don't have a pen testing, because I know that a lot of teams don't have the opportunity to hire a pen testing or have a pen tester inside their teams, we are going to prevent a lot of known vulnerabilities and a lot of known security issues and risks. So to close the cycle, it's important to patch these vulnerabilities because vulnerabilities are increasing a lot and probably we have a new vulnerability in production and we need to patch it. So having this complete procedure. Go ahead, please. Um, what I used to say, if we are part of a cycle or a development cycle, we need to have responsibility about quality. We know that nowadays also it's a problem to say teams that we need to have this quality team or to defend or role or something like that sometimes happen. And imagine in security. So I think it's important to have teams with this culture and focusing in quality and security nowadays. Go to the next one. This is quick. We are going to talk about weaknesses, about vulnerabilities, risks, threats. We are going to be a little bit scared at that point. We can continue. We are quite familiar with this graph. We know that about 85 of defects or quality or functional defects are related to the code. So most of the time, if we find these defects or failures in the early phases of the development, we are going to save a lot of money. We are going to be fast into the development cycle. So if we go ahead, we can see that if we see the security weaknesses, we have more or less the same statistics. The CWEs are the weaknesses enumeration, are weaknesses that are related directly in computer software. So most of these weaknesses are risks that we have, are things that are attacks are related to that, are could be prevented if we have some tool that scans our code and give us some information about these weaknesses, because these weaknesses are reported, is know how to attack them. So we can see this similarity in the data between cybersecurity and the data that we manage in quality, that more or less 85% of the problems are related to the development phase and the implementation phase. Obviously, we also know that if the architecture is not good, the design is not good, we are going to have quality issues, but we are going to have also a lot of cybersecurity risks. So this is, I think, the main relation that we can face in quality and security. How about software vulnerabilities? This is the next slide. The vulnerabilities are increasing a lot during this year. So we can see that the vulnerabilities and exposures in security the last 3 years are increasing a lot. And in the next slide, we can see that these vulnerabilities are are quite related to software issues. So if you go to the next slide, we can see that during these last 3 years, attackers are going to find security issues in software. Because these two ones, SQL injection and cross-site scripting, are the most vulnerabilities related to software. So they are trying to find issues in filtering, in uploading pictures, in authentication, in forms. So these kind of vulnerabilities are related with this topic. So we need to be aware, because attackers are watching that software is weak, so they are going to there to find their results and their criminal structure. So if we go ahead, we are going to see that vulnerabilities are everywhere and we must be aware about them. And what about the news? What is happening right now? I want to talk you about three recent news, and how could we avoid them if we have something related in our software. So if we go ahead, the first one is related with a Samsung massive dump of data. What happened here? In 2021, an info stealer was introduced in their system, and a lot of passwords were exposed. So at that point, this year, some attacker used this data to go into the system. Imagine the passwords weren't updated in more than 4 years. So this is a big security issue. If we are managing critical data, we need to have at least a password policy and revoke data. And if we have a password exposure, revoke passwords, and having some procedures about that. What was the result? You can go to the next slide. The results are these customer tickets leaked with information about customers, what devices they have, what problems they have. So um, this is critical and it's directly related with the functionality of this ticket management system. So we can go to the next new. This happened in Spain last year and was quite funny because they upload a picture into a register form. They found out that in the URL there was an E, so the attacker say that, okay, maybe it's a Windows system, and he upload a picture in the register form and he can see the exact path of where the URL, this picture, the URL, it's uploaded. So what he did, he uploaded a PHP file and executed them through the navigation bar. And he executed the file, break the full website, but not happy with that. If you go to the next slide, he dig a little bit into the system and force a vulnerability from 2017, which any scan tool could find this kind of vulnerabilities and install more than and expose more than six thousands of user credentials. And the last one is quite quick because it's related with the third parties. This is about a shopware plugin, and it's a security plugin. So imagine and this expose systems to SQL injection attacks. So even if we are using some plugins that we think that are we can trust in them, we need to be aware also. And if we find that we need to patch something and update something, do it. But to do that, we need to have some scanning, some automated scanning at that point. That it's the non-functional part of the security. We can continue. And what we are going to do, we need to take some action points. We need to do something. We need to ensure that the things that we are going to do are going to be safe and are going to have a lot of quality. So we can go ahead. And to me, it's so important to have a good culture. We know that in quality, it's really, really important to have a good quality culture, have the teams involved in quality, but happens exactly the same with security. We need to use some analysis tools because if we have some problem, as we see, related with a vulnerability that it's included in every scan, and we face a leak or something like that related to a vulnerability that was detected 10 years ago, 8 years ago, we are going to have a lot of problems with the trust of our company. And I think it's also important to have security test scenarios. We need to think about security also in a functional way. And then I'm going to share you a lot of tips about that. And I know that all of you have a lot of security testing and you never thought about that. And after this speech, for sure, you are going to start tagging your security test to find if at some point you are going to have a security issue. And also automate the test cases because it's important to integrate all these things in our continuous integration cycles. We can go ahead. And what about culture? as I said, we all have responsibility, not just the testing team. We all have responsibility. Developers have responsibility. Product managers have responsibility. The architecture teams have responsibility. Every part of the team needs to start thinking about quality and security at the same time. To do that, we can find a way of working to integrate those tools, to share responsibilities, and it's going to be the easiest way to introduce this kind of approach of um, security software development lifecycle. And I also really like the part of the internal training, because some part of the team could be really good about architecture, or developers know a lot of a specific program or language, and also someone it's really interesting in cybersecurity, other ones in testing, and we can start sharing this knowledge internally between the teams, and knowing who is um, the most the the person with the most knowledge with that topic. If we have some problem, we can go to that person and we can have some guidelines. So to do it's also important to have a lot of communication and documentation in the teams, and take this kind of action plans. We need to start in our way of working, start thinking about security. We need to do some checkpoints. We need to start doing things, doing something. That's the most important. And in my ideal world, we can go ahead. Um, we can have a secure software developer engineering test who has knowledge about security. Uh, what I did when I started in security, I did a lot of self-taught. I go to courses, go to conferences, a lot of cybersecurity conferences, and started to join a lot of communities, for example, the OWASP community and blogs and things like that. And related to security, I did a master's degree because I was really, really interested in that topic. But I think starting with the secure software development lifecycle rules could be really important for us as testers, and knowing things about application security, what is happening and day by day on the news, and reading something about the OWASP, Mitre, being aware of vulnerabilities could be really good to change our mind and thinking about this kind of risks. So we can go, and as I said, the second point is about analysis tools. Quite quick. We used to integrate static and dynamic application security testing. There's another one that it's quite interactive and that, but I think the most important ones are the static and the dynamic. And having also some artifactory as the last speech, and having integrated in that artifactory and image scanning to have some feedback about the packaging, and if it's vulnerable, having an artifact signet and things like that. It's really, really important in our security cycle, just to be sure that we are going to deliver in production is safe and is tested and everything is going to be good. I'm not going to share any tool, because the most important part of the analysis tool is that they are aligned with security standards. What does it mean? Um, if I'm using the best tool, the best security tool, but I don't upload to new versions, I'm not going to use a good tool because it's not updated. I'm not updated. I'm using a old version. It's not good. So we need to be updated. If the tool is not maintained, if I'm using a good tool this year and I see that it's not maintained, they are not giving me um, new versions, obviously I need to change the tool because I'm avoiding the new vulnerabilities. So it's there's a lot of movement in tools. There are always new tools, new approaches, and that. So it's important to be quite aware periodically that our tools are updated. And the next part about security test scenarios. It's why I said security is so functional. I think everyone here have test scenarios related to different kinds of user. To an admin user can do this kind of actions or see this kind of data, and non-privileged users can access only that kind of data. That's security. If a user without permissions can access some data, we have a security issue there. So this is a security test scenario, of course. Maybe with files, we are testing that a file is good uploaded and the user can download also files. We need to check that files are safe. That if someone tries, that as I said with the new about the uploading files form, if someone can upload some file and execute that file on my server, that it has no sense. And it's related with the functionality because we are testing how files are uploaded. So at least we need to check that these files have the proper extension and are not accessible through the navigation bar, for example. And what about logins? Logins, it's really important, but we can go ahead so if you want. But these are the login part. We can go to the other one, to the first one, the part of the form. This one, okay. And limiting the inputs. No, it's okay. We can stay here. And what about this example? I was talking about the admin and the privilege. I want to share you a common requirement on any form, and how can we develop some test cases to dig into the security of our system. For example, imagine that we have a user with admin privilege and he can edit and see 6 parameters. If I go to the next slide, if I've got a restricted privileged user, he can see only 3 parameters. Okay, we can start testing this approach. If we have the next one, if we have a restricted user, maybe we need to check that in the front end, in our website, we can also see the parameters that we need to see. So that's security. I'm not allowed to see the 3, 5, and 6 parameter. If I go to the request, it's the next slide. If I go to the request or the developer tools of the network tools, and I can see all the parameters, I'm having a security issue. So a lot of times we can't see or can edit the parameters using the front end, but if we use the API, we are forcing an escalation of privilege. So it's important also to check the backend of our systems. And the next slide, I show you that we need to check that we can edit. If we are a restricted user, we can edit these 3 parameters that I'm allowed. But I also need to check that the next slide, I also need to check that if I'm not allowed to edit some parameters, the response must be a forbidden response. And once, but only once in my life, I saw a forbidden access and the database was updated. So that's why it's so important to dig into our testing and try to check all the parts of our code to make sure that our functionality works and it's well defined. Okay, I wanted to do a demo, but we are out of time, and I prefer to share this through the slides. And you can go to this code where um, I developed two test cases. One is about a cross-site scripting attacking a Portswigger laboratory, and the other one is an SQL injection. So I developed it using Python, Selenium, and I added code security into the GitHub. And if you go to the next slide, this is more or less the structure of the GitHub actions. Yes, if you want to check it and try it. And the next one are the results. So if we have integrated our test cases related about security, and we can also split them into the things that are related with security. If something fails, we are going to detect quite quick a privilege escalation, something related with authorization, something related with files, with forms. So it's to me, it's quite important to have this split and seen in one checkpoint if we have security issues and we need to review them. And we can continue. I think that's all. To have some conclusions, we can go to the last one. And I think that security is a continuous process as is quality. We need to shift left for stronger security. We need to start thinking about the security things that we can do. We don't need to have a specialization on pen testing, for example. We need to think about the functionality that can affect our systems, and also the tools that are going to give us some feedback about this. Also, the risk and vulnerabilities are rising a lot. We need to be aware. We need to think about culture because really matters. And the security testing is also functional. So that's all. I hope you like it. If you have any questions, you can contact me by email, LinkedIn, Twitter, wherever you want.
I'll just thank you so much, Sarah. I want to comment one thing before we'll end the morning session, and thank you for being with us. I think that we all agree, and we tend to say that QA team now, the role has changed a lot over the years, and if before QAs were in charge of testing, now QA in many organizations are in charge of quality. And in that aspect, new roles and new titles evolve. And I really like your suggestion about a security software testing engineer, because in a way, if there is a security problem, there still harms user experience and the actions from the user point of view. And if his information leaks, for example, or some kind of security problem. And from that point of view, I think that not enough we look on security as part of quality. And I think that was a great point of view that thank you so much for sharing it with us.